guess we can go from one dumbass artist to another. So let's go from MIA losing her damn job in her mind to Nick Cannon saying some dumbass story, another dumbass comment. So Nick Cannon recently did a podcast, I guess, with TMZ, and he recently came out and said that yes, he has a double standard when it comes to his twins, Rock and Roll. You know, the twins that he has with Mariah, because they go back like babies and pacifiers. Old Dirk Dog, no liar. So yeah. So let's get into the double standardness of this moron. So he's drawing attention for outlining different dating rules for his 15-year-old twins, according to the comments he made on the TMZ podcast. So the 45-year-old personality, who celebrated his eldest children turning 1 year older last month, offered his candid thoughts on the topic during Saturday's episode of the TMZ podcast. Now, Nick shares Moroccan and Monroe, 15, with ex-wife Mariah Carey, whom he was married to from 2008 until their divorce in 2016. The conversation began as a star revealed that his son Moroccan has started to date, but his twin sister is not allowed to do the same. Excuse me, saying, "My son has been dating and I've allowed it," he revealed to podcast host Tawanda Robinson before adding that he has encouraged it. However, when questioned if his eldest daughter is being given the same opportunity, Nick admitted no, absolutely not. Now, the media personality then shared that he understands it is absolutely a double standard. He explained that there is a difference when parenting a son and when parenting a daughter. He says, "I am more protective of my daughter because there's things out there that I have to protect my daughter from." Well, I guess he's talking about himself, because you are the man that should be the last type of man that Monroe out here dating, because you've proven, oh yeah, I'm gonna just run up in a bunch of broads and have 12 children and try to perpetuate. Because the one thing about Nick Cannon always comes off so damn goofy, trying to be like this alpha male type. And there's a lot of that in the bro sphere. And he definitely gives that with a lot of his approach in this whole situation. So yeah, he said, like, as we know, there's certain types of individuals that you want to keep your daughter away from. My son, it's a different conversation when he's going out into the dating world. The star then added, it is his worst nightmare for someone to hurt his daughter. Well, you have multiple daughters, not just her, but I guess this is the oldest one, and you're having to deal with crossing that bridge of she's almost crossing over into adulthood because she's 15. She's probably got 2 more years before they graduate high school, and you gearing them up for college and going out there and preparing them for the real world. But I would say that if you're preparing your child for how the world is, male and female, you should be giving them that. I'm not saying that boys and girls are equal, because they're not. But if you're teaching your daughter to be a respectable girl and what not to tolerate and put up with from men, because remember, Mariah is that the way she presents herself is sort of like, I'm not a floozy. I don't go around sleeping with Tom, Dick, and Harry. And I'm sure that that same way that she presents herself around men, she's put that on Monroe. And I'm sure that the son, Rock, because they're going to rock and roll, I'm sure you're teaching him to be an upstanding gentleman and not being disrespectful and taking advantage of women. Then that's not an issue you got to deal with either. That as long as you teach your kids to be upstanding citizens, that should be all that matters, and respectable or respectful. So the star, they said, but if someone puts their hands on my daughter, I'm going to jail. I'm doing 25 to life if somebody put their hands on my daughter. What does that have to do with the fact of her dating, though? Because you're automatically jumping into a guy going to hit your daughter or abuse her. Child, this ain't no damn Lifetime movie of the week. She just want to go out on a date. But yeah, you put the fear of God up in that. But let's take it back to the look, Nick, you ain't that damn old. You 45 years old. Take it back to the days when we was growing up, when the fathers would have that talk. When if okay, prom, you bring in the girl, the daughter bringing the son in, if there were fathers in the picture. I don't know. I had both my parents, so I'll speak on that. When you have situations where it's like the guy meets the father of the daughter, you put the fear of God in that motherfucker. If you lay one hand on my child, I'm going to jail. I will kill you when I see you. So don't play with me. And there's that situation. Once you lay down the foundation and you lay the fear of God up in that man or that boy about to be a man, then we get to that position. But yeah, we know that there's a bunch like there's girls out here who don't have the luxury of having a father in their picture who could be a protector and a provider. I grew up in a two-family household, so I understand that I'm one of the lucky ones. But I do have friends who weren't so lucky. So I don't understand why he had to bring up like the father. Oh yeah, I just saw somebody sent me this thing about Dolly Parton. Yeah, I know. I did that story on my website. I just didn't cover it here. But about Dolly canceling the residency. But anyway, let's get into this situation. So now when Robinson asked if he was worried about gold diggers approaching Moroccan, Cannon answered that he was not. He said, no, he got a whole lot of money. His mom's Mariah Carey. The Masked Singer host said. Now, Cannon was also asked when Monroe can date, if her twin brother is already out in the dating world. Now, following a brief pause, the star explained that both he and his oldest daughter have made a deal in regards to her dating. Now, this was the part when he said this mess, it sounded like a whole lot of stupidity. And it made me like, what? He said if she could explain to me when what's going to happen on these dates, then she can go. Did you give birth to did you and Mariah have birth or give birth to Raven Baxter? I can't even say her damn name. Raven Simone over there on that show. That's so Raven. She can't see in the damn future. So how's she gonna tell you what's gonna happen on the date? So I gotta give you a play by play. We haven't gone on the date yet. We're gonna go to the movies. We're gonna watch a movie. We're gonna go get something to eat. Then we're gonna hold hands. Then we're gonna walk down the street listening to whatever music's playing in the background as we're walking down the street, taking the wind in our hair. Like, what the fuck? Like, this sounds dumb. And did you ask Moroccan this? Or are you expecting this whole thing that a lot of men do, which is, oh, if you hook up and you lose your virginity, oh yeah, high five and all that other stuff. We got to stop doing that. We got to stop celebrating pushing sex on children because you was a fast ass growing up. Then he also joked that her twin brother can tag along on his sister's dates. Then they said, but you ain't going one on one with no little bitch. Oh, you said with no little bastard anywhere, the star said before adding that he is preparing her for college. I know it's out of my control. I can't do nothing about it. Hopefully, we're having all these open conversations. My daughter tells me any and everything that you know of, because daughters ain't telling everything and anything. You thinking that she telling you stuff, but she probably telling you just enough so that when you can lay off her with the other stuff. And this is the messed up part because if kids can't be open, upfront, and honest, and you playing this whole double standard thing, this is exactly why girls go around sneaking behind their daddy back. Or 9 times out of 10, you see these PKs, preacher kids, who be fast in the ass over these other girls who are very much open and upfront about sex and dating and that sort of thing. When you start putting all these little negatives in their head, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that, makes them more curious, makes them more looking into seeing what more they're gonna do, and they'll do it behind your back. And you don't want it to get to that point, but it might be hard for her because you got these nosy ass tabloid people out here that be all up in, situations wanting to see what celebrity kids is doing, and they'll be ready to report on it. And they got the pressure because with Mariah Carey having such a reputation about herself and a certain demureness, excuse me, a lot of the stuff won't be able to, it's probably going to be hard for them to be their individual selves. And so, yeah, now she's going to have to wait to get to college to be able to carry. Then that's probably what's going to happen. And then you really going to be shitting bricks because you ain't going to know what's going to happen. But like I said, at the end of the day, you got to hope and pray that the way you teach your kids, that you taught them enough that can go out in the world and make the right decisions about themselves. Oh, in that situation. So, social media users, of course, jumped over on the Twitter to share differing thoughts on his comments, with one saying, I understand and parenting a teenage boy is entirely different than a teenage girl. Another type, why is this weird? This is like 99% of parents. Well, that number's a little too high because it's not 99% of the parents. But a fan added, no, you could be protective of both of them. And that's why I said it's like you shouldn't only be like, well, the boy got it, and then you overly protective of the girl. boys need guidance and stuff too. That's why we have a whole situation of these groypers and stuff going around that's being raised, excuse me, by the Nick Fuenteses and the Looks Maxers and all these other people out here. They have no real guidance because you have parents out here who's not willing to lay down the work and teach their kids. So another person said, nope, he absolutely right on that, and I'm the exact way. Well, good for you. And one shared, I don't know why people are shocked. Most dads don't want to imagine their daughters dating. Excuse me, dating. Look at every sitcom dad. Well, here's the thing: there's sitcoms and there's the real world, and y'all need to stop trying to model y'all the way y'all raise y'all kids after Bill goddamn Cosby, especially when if we want to go into Bill Cosby's personal life, who he really ended up being. He and Trump got a lot more in common than you realize. Now, another fan said, a lot of parents are more protective with daughters because they worry about different risks, especially at that age. Another person said, literally makes no sense. And one added, who is Moroccan? A 50-year-old boy taken on a date. Definitely someone his age or lower. So why not let another boy, same age, to Monroe, or I think they meant to say take Monroe out too. Now, then they were talking about how Nick Cannon joined his eldest children for a fun night out at Six Flags, blah, 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 so forth. We don't need to know all of that. And look, let's not also forget Monroe, or Ro Cannon, as she goes by, went on her IG and her stories and posted the following. She said, clearing something up, guys. I only have one brother who is at Moroccan.Cannon. I do have other half siblings from my dad, but they are all many, many years younger than me. So there was a whole situation where people were coming out saying that, with something when she said, I only got one brother. It was like, yeah, I got half siblings, but they're not my siblings. So it's like she not even included all of them as like being her pure blood family members. They just a bunch of kids that my daddy had because he couldn't keep his damn dick in his pants. So that's what she want to say, but she can't say it because maybe she, the frontal lobe ain't developed and she can't articulate that. But she said what she said, and she said Moroccan is her brother. The rest are her half siblings. Now, people feeling the way about it. Oh well, argue with your mammy or your mammies and argue with Nick, who got to sit and figure all that mess out because he wanted to create himself a little harem of baby mamas because he ain't married none of them. So, but like I said, child, there ain't no way that girl gonna be able to predict to you what has happened with her and all. I mean, like how she gonna go out on this date and all this other stuff. She ain't Raven Baxter. She ain't Miss Cleo. She can't predict the future. It's just if they're gonna go out on a date, let her go out on a date with a respectable gentleman. The reality is that I say this, I truly feel like that he just don't want Monroe to end up with a man like him because the way that he been acting out in these streets. He probably ain't a good representation of being a man. I'm not gonna say a father because I don't know how he raised his kids, but the way you've been presenting yourself as a man out here and how you've been going around laying low and spreading around and having all these different kids with all these different women, and your twins being aware of that because they were the first kids you had, period, with Mariah. Um, that's probably what all of this stems from. So you can sit up there, your little goofy ass can sit up there and pretend that channeling Joe Jackson with this whole situation regarding your kids. But like I said, I just feel like you just afraid that Monroe gonna end up with a man like you. And for all our sakes, I hope she don't. So I'll say all this to say, what do you guys think of this story regarding what Nick Cannon is saying about his children? Do you feel that it is a double standard in the way that he's raising his twins, where he's saying that Rock can go out and date as fluent as he wants, and I ain't got to worry about him? I guess because he's saying because boys are simple, but when it comes to his daughter, he's overprotective, and I don't mind you being overprotective, but it's just I just don't like double standards when it comes to you can because you have a dick, but you can't because you got a coochie. It's just stupid to me. Raise your kids to be upstanding citizens on both genders. How about that? So let me know what you guys think of this story in the comments down below.